go. And we're live. Yay. Hi, everybody. It says that we're live, but it looks like it's still okay. We're just going with it. Welcome, everybody, to the Theta Healing Power Hour. I'm Brenda B. Bailey, and I always say we meet every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I get to interview, and you get to meet and hear the genius of people that I know and that I've met, the influencers, the people who are experts, and that's the beautiful thing. And then at the end, we'll do a little bit of some theta healing. So that's what we do. So please know that we're talking about visibility and being seen. So please like, please share, please comment, and tag anybody that you feel like will benefit from this, because it'll be some great information. And whether it's somebody who can watch it live or it's somebody that has to watch a replay, information's still good, and the theta healing work is still valid and works just as well live or on a replay. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me introduce you to my featured guest. She is a fellow Texan, which I always love. It's Veronica V. Sopher. She is an award-winning visibility strategist with more than 20 years experience in public relations. She works with entrepreneurs and business owners who are ready to scale their brand with a strong visibility strategy to garner national media placement. So Veronica knows the strategic media placement legitimizes you and your brand as an expert in your area. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so glad that you are joining us, and let's go ahead and get the party started here. So let me
Yeah.
go ahead and ask my first question. So what is visibility strategy?
Well, it's really all of the components that we talk about when we think about a business plan, a communications plan, a visibility plan. It's advertising, public relations, marketing, branding. It's making sure all of those components are aligned, and all of those pillars make up your visibility strategy. So it's not just one part of it, but the whole.
And with a lot of people, in case, I've been an entrepreneur for 28 years, so I probably I know enough to be dangerous in a lot of different areas. But one thing that I do know is that most people only address one of those
Right.
things that you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. That you definitely see that.
So with Veronica, you get the whole package. She understands the whole. And yeah, I could go on and on about that. So why do we need one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And people often say, well, I'm using Facebook ads, or I'm using Instagram ads, or, I've got a great marketing campaign and social sellers. And those are all really important, and they will drive your business, but you need a visibility strategy so you can understand which direction you're going and then how you're going to get there. And how each of those components, whether it's ads or marketing or public relations, will help get you there. Without that roadmap, you really are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and oftentimes spending money. So, like all planning, it's going to help guide next steps, and it's really going to help guide your success.
And I also think too, when you're looking at that, right, it also allows you to be able to come up with the plan and see the success in it or the tweaking that needs to happen from the metrics that you get by knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to have processes in place. You hear people talk about doing a SWOT analysis, looking at your analytics, understanding your data, and all of that is part of your planning. So without a firm understanding of the direction you want to go and the ability to answer the very simple question of what problem are you trying to solve, you won't know how the data is going to inform those decisions, because you can have all the data in the world. But if you are unclear on the problem that you're trying to solve, you won't be able to cull through that data to give you any really strong direction without it.
I'm going to be taking notes too, so we can do work here at the end. So how do we get a visibility strategy?
Whether you work with a team or you hire an agency or you do it yourself, it's a really simple component, and it's identifying the problem you're trying to solve, who your target audience is, understanding how they consume their information, designing some content that's going to speak to the tone, and incorporating a lot of those pieces of information that you have discovered about your target audience into the method that you deliver the message. So whether it's videos or audio or podcasting or writing or blogging, posts that you post on social media, regardless of what it is, you have to have those basic components. And there's lots of great resources. I have a couple of free resources on my website that you can go and help really drill down deep to identify your target audience. And once you've done that work, you will then have some direction. So you don't have to spend a lot of money doing it. You don't have to hire someone. If it's something you're comfortable doing, then just learning how to follow a basic formula is going to really help you in establishing the basis for a visibility strategy.
And, I also feel like that what we're looking at is also when you work with somebody, you get that objective eye of the expert who has a pulse, because things are changing, right, Veronica? And they're changing fast as far as how people are consuming information, what they're getting. It feels like what worked last month is not working this month.
Yeah, and honestly, you hit it exactly on the nail. The type of coaching and the type of work that I was doing with online entrepreneurs really centered around Instagram and Facebook 4 weeks ago. Today, the majority of it is Clubhouse. And it is shifting so incredibly fast that we just really can't keep up. And it's not like you can just convert the strategies over, because they don't work the same. Facebook is more, if you think about it, it is more of a one-way communication model. Even though a lot of us would like to think it's a two-way communication model, it's not. It's really a one-way communication model versus Clubhouse, which is not recorded, which is not archived in any way, shape, or form. There are absolutely no visuals, so you are 100% dependent on being present in the moment at that time with another human being. And that is not the premise of Facebook. So how you design your messaging or your visibility strategy is going to be a completely different method. And people are running very quickly to figure out how to make that all work.
Absolutely. And you have to sound intelligent. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what you look like. It's not about what your background is. It's not about any of that. It's about how do you sound?
Right.
So it was like I was hearing somebody say, so for God's sakes, if you get called up on stage, make sure you sound intelligent.
That's right. And you start to notice your the little things that make you, all the ums and the I love that and amazing and excellent. And a lot of us have some of those words that we're dependent on. I almost said super dependent on. That's one of mine that I'm working on. But it really brings to your attention where there's room for growth so that you can more quickly engage with people and have them more quickly connect to you, because that's ultimately what you want to do. And that was the premise of social media to begin with. I mean, that was the whole reason why people got on Facebook and got on Twitter and Instagram. We're just doing it. I like to describe to my teenagers that Clubhouse is really just a glorified version of the party line back from the 1980s, and they still don't get the reference, but it's fine.
And there are probably some people watching this that won't get the reference. Trust us. Or even like a chat room.
Right.
I think like Yahoo used to have like chat rooms back in the day. So it'd be on certain subjects, welcome. It's so interesting how it's like come back around.
Yes. Yeah, it really has. And I wonder too, if the timing just wasn't perfect with COVID. I know we're getting off topic, but it's the human. Okay.
That's what this is about, right?
Okay.
It brings even more juiciness.
Yeah, the human connection is what I think so many of us were missing for so many months. And when Clubhouse came in, you no longer were just sitting there mindlessly scrolling through a feed, waiting for someone to comment back to you, or waiting for those little bubbles, across your screen to feel connected to someone else. And so I think those entrepreneurs who have been quick to adjust and to pivot, like many of us have these last few months, are going to really be the trendsetters and having a firm grasp on their brand, and their messaging is going to just propel their business. So that's what I have loved most about watching Clubhouse evolve in the last 4 weeks.
Right. And, it's been around since July, but
Mm-hmm.
it started getting the buzz here at the end of last year. And then everybody, then people were like auctioning off their invites, right? It was just, and now, invites it seems like it's a little bit easier because more people are getting on. But it was just very, very interesting as to what was happening. And the big thing is, I think when you're talking about it, Veronica, as I'm thinking about it, it's that you want to contribute, to engage, and it's just another way that came about, which was brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
people are really, and it is that thing that, yeah, some things will change as time goes on with the quarantine and with the pandemic and COVID, however you want to address it. But there are some things that aren't going to change.
Right.
We're not going to be able to have the connection that we were able to have so easily before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. I hadn't really thought about Clubhouse in that way, which I'm sure Facebook just really appreciates us talking about it, but that's okay. Doesn't matter, because it'll also be on YouTube and so many other places as well. So
There you
many
go.
other platforms.
Good.
So how can non-traditional media help with your visibility strategy?
That's a really great question. And people usually engage a public relations practitioner specifically to write press releases, to land interviews for radio, television, newspapers, your traditional media. But what I have found, especially on the online space with entrepreneurs, is non-traditional media can be just as effective, if not more effective. And that looks like podcasts, virtual summits, Facebook shows like this, YouTube videos, TikTok videos. And so because people consume information differently today than they did 10, 15, 25, 30 years ago, again, going back to the past, if you think about it, in a lot of major markets, there was a morning edition of the newspaper and an afternoon edition of the newspaper. And then slowly it went away and we just got the morning edition of the newspaper. Now fewer and fewer people are actually taking the paper because they get it online and they get their information much faster by just subscribing to different outlets. They no longer are loyal to their particular newspaper. They consume it from all places. So if you think about how we consume our information and the diversification that's happened, it just makes sense that non-traditional media would follow suit. So podcasts have just as much of an influence on someone's buying power, consuming power, interest, all of those kinds of things that other people, that traditional media usually filled that void, and that's no longer the case. So I have some clients who specifically only request non-traditional media placement. And so I'm just pitching them on podcasts, or my team and I are pitching them on podcasts and pitching them on summits because that's where they get the ROI, the return on their investment. Yes, depending on the type of business that you have, it is great to be featured in a morning television news show programming, or maybe even a drive home time on the radio. That could be very beneficial depending on what your services are. But oftentimes, especially on the online space, people prefer to get non-traditional media. It serves them that much better.
Well, and I also think too, Veronica, because I've been thinking, I always tell people things have changed so much, like in the last 15 years, since I've been doing this business, 28 years, 15, almost 15 with this. And back in the day, I would always say, you only had two ways to advertise, to market yourself. It was radio and TV. And they were just cost prohibitive for a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's what social media has opened up for us, as being able to have an affordable way to be able to get, to increase your reach.
Mm-hmm.
So, now we look at, and I think probably why podcasts and Clubhouse, people are liking it, is because they can do other things while they're listening.
Yes. Yes. And the other thing I would say too, Brenda, is that it's curated. So it's not like you're just turning it onto the 3 channels that stream to your television. Used to be you had ABC, NBC, CBS, and if depending on what market you were in, you might get one more, maybe a PBS or something that didn't really come in. Now we have Sirius XM radio. You can curate any of your interests based on that. So that's the other reason why non-traditional media. And what I tell people all the time is the beauty of podcasting is you've already got warm leads. People were not served this podcast in a feed. They sought out this feed. They sought out this podcaster. And I use this analogy all the time. It's like being invited to someone's home as a dinner guest for a dinner party and you only know the host. You walk in, the host greets you, they take your coat, they take your bag, they introduce you to a lovely couple to the left and to the right, and then they say, see ya, and they're gone for the rest of the night. Well, you're learning to get a little bit comfortable and you're like, okay, well, clearly she wouldn't have introduced me to them if she didn't think they were a good fit for me, so let me just chat with them. And before you know it, you're seated next to them at dinner, you end up having a lovely night meeting wonderful new people because that warm introduction was made. Even if it was quick, it was a warm introduction because you trust the host. So that's how I like to equate podcasters. Their audience really trusts them and value that they are curating and vetting the type of guests that are coming on that are going to give them quality and bring value, or else they won't waste their time.
And and also with that as well is that especially successful podcaster, right? They're well connected because
Yes.
of them being who they are and the market that they have. So if that podcast that is your ideal market, is your ideal client, they may also know, it's also not just about being on the podcast, it's building and meeting and building a relationship with the person who's leading the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Absolutely.
that
That's
that's the
so
piece
true.
sometimes that people miss. It's not just about that. It's not just about being interviewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
about who they know outside of being on air, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that I think sometimes people don't really consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So we're just making y'all aware here, kind of planting some seeds. You're like, I hope that what's happening, because this is a really great conversation, is that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that, or oh, I never thought about that. And that's always my purpose with this as well. So what do you feel like, Veronica, is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make?
I think the biggest mistake that they make is assuming that once they have a logo and a color palette, they're good to go and they don't have to invest any more time in their messaging. And your messaging has to be recrafted and recrafted and recrafted every so often. Because as you said earlier, technology changes everything.
Absolutely. And I think, a pandemic changes
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Uh, it's really, really interesting. And what was you and I promise you guys this, we're not the only ones who are saying this. It's like it's a conversation that you can hear always if you perk your ears up. It's that it's changed like 2 or 3 times just in 2020.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's ever changing. So the biggest mistake people make is not revisiting their messaging and their branding. It has to be revisited and has to be nurtured, just like a garden.
Well, and I also think too, I mean, if you think about this as well, people are also evolving too. So your
Mm-hmm.
messaging will evolve as you evolve,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that I know I'm in the midst of this right now and I'm kind of like laughing at myself because it was so funny because the two coaches or strategists that I work with, they both have said, confusion's a great thing at this point, Brenda. And I'm like, I know, but it's still,
Yes. Yes.
like okay, but it just it happens to for us to evolve, for us to elevate, for us to be able to grow and to expand our reach. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that also too, especially for newer entrepreneurs, is that, well, and I'm not even going to say entrepreneurs, this is of human nature, we learn more from what we don't want than what we do.
Yes.
So typically, again, the metrics help with certain things for us to understand, well, I do want that, I don't want that. But what I'm also talking about as well is, who's the client that I
Mm-hmm.
love working with?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because in the beginning, I feel like that we work with everyone. And
Right.
then we start niching down like, we get a little bit pickier, or we'll be like, that's not so much fun. I don't need to take everyone. So that's the beautiful thing. In fact, I think that in our initial just conversation that we had, we were kind of talking about that, and the fact that I think maybe you were having a waiting list or having to hire more staff because and not saying yes to everyone, right? Because
Right. That's
don't
right.
have the time and energy. And you just want to, the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you get to pick who you spend your time and energy with.
That's right. Yeah. That's very powerful.
So, that's the beautiful thing. I always used to say that. I've always said that from the beginning. I do business with you because I want to, not because
Yeah.
I have to. So we have just we've talked about so many different things, and it's so great. So there were a couple of things that I think that we're just going to do a little bit of theta healing work. And then Miss Veronica is going to tell us, she's got something special for us. So she'll tell that at the end here. So that'll be great. I may not have verbalized that as well. Thank God I'm not on Clubhouse. That didn't sound very intelligent what I just said. I'll just say that. So, because I was typing and talking at the same time with my notes. So let's just take a look here. I know I had to laugh. Somebody said early in COVID, I was in a online networking, Zoom, and I had to laugh because she was a marketer too, which I kind of went, she was like, if I hear the word pivot one more time, I'm just going to throw up. And I just thought, holy crap, you better get your seatbelt, better get your bucket ready then, girl, because I think we're going to, and this was at the beginning, I was thinking, I think we're going to be hearing that word a lot, and people are going to be doing that a lot this year. So, and 2021 is proving to not be any different. So, it's really talking about pivoting and looking at what we're doing and adjusting it. And yes, it does have to do with COVID. It also has to do with the election. It has not to get political, but anybody in business for any amount of time, I always say election years are different than the other 3 years. If y'all didn't know that, you heard it here first. And people will get tighter and tighter with the money. And what was really interesting in 2020 was people held on to their money so tight at the beginning of COVID that it didn't fall in the exact same flow as it normally does. But I think what was interesting because of what happened, again, I'm not up for discussion, but how it rolled out and the confusion on who was actually going to be president, right? That was when people held on to their money, because then they were like, wait a minute, I'm very confused and scared. But it's temporary, guys, and that's the deal. And if you have your plan and you have someone who's helping you manage it, it's not such a big deal. Right? Because that's the thing. I mean, Veronica's going to agree with me on this. She's like, yes, you're making me sound really good, what I do. And I'm like, yes, that's part of my job here. But it's also what I know after having done this for so long. This is not my area of expertise at all, would not even claim. Like I said, I know enough, like kind of to know a little bit, because I do work with people who tell me these things, right? I do pay somebody who gives me this great information that I know that allows me to sound intelligent while I'm doing this and talk to somebody like Veronica is in the know. But it is helpful. And I think that that's the biggest thing is, especially if you're a new entrepreneur, it possibly adds to a little bit of the confusion or maybe a little bit of frustration because it feels like you're not getting it right. But the thing is that if you're pivoting, you are getting it right.
Right. And I would say too, as long as you're evolving, and you talked about that earlier, as long as you're evolving, you're doing it right, because you've got nowhere to go but forward.
Absolutely. So, with theta healing, what it does is I was actually just thinking about this earlier today. what I feel like that I do at times for people is do a disruption, because there's information that's out there. Like there's information that Veronica is giving you, and it's really good information, but there's other information that we get that has been the status quo. That's actually what keeps people in their frustration and keeps them stuck. And part of that is working on their mind, working on their mindset. What makes what I do so brilliant, I'm just going to say it like that, as far as is that we go beyond the mind. We go beyond the conscious and the subconscious and actually work on a cellular level. And when you do that, the changes will just follow. So I actually make it easier for like Veronica to work with clients, so to speak, so that people can get out of their way. And when we only use 11% of our brain. So when we're wanting to change our mind, or we're wanting to master our mindset, it's like, really, the 11%? That's what you're wanting to do? And when you allow that energetically to be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes everything just falls into place. But you got to be clear and you got to be intentional, as with anything. So whenever I work with a new client or student, because I've been doing this we're going into 15 years now, it's always make sure that they have 3 beliefs in place, because we hold our beliefs on a cellular level, and that's why we want to change them. So when you hear that information out there that's just saying change your thought, it'll change your belief. Yes, that is the long, hard, arduous road that really, honestly, you don't have time for. But if that's how you want to do it, that's what, that's old school, and that's okay. But what we're going to do here is we're going to bring in a little new school. So 3 basic beliefs to start off with. I want an instant healing. I deserve an instant healing, and an instant healing is possible. Because what's going to happen here is very quick. But if you don't believe that you want, deserve, or that it's possible for that quick to happen, it's going to slow it down. And I don't want that for anybody. So my beautiful featured guest here, Veronica, is going to cue you when to say yes. Okay. So if you would like those, what I'm going to tell you to do is say yes. Say yes out loud, okay? Because that's important, so that your brain, the universe, whoever's your divine power, can all hear that and all be in that, that what do you call it? That conspiracy to make it happen, so to speak, energetically. And you also want to do it in the comments below, because this is social media and we got to include that in as well. So once again, if you've enjoyed what you've been hearing, think this is valuable, know somebody who would wants to hear it, please like, comment, share. It's free information. Why not? So
Mm-hmm.
if you would like to get those 3 beliefs changed, I want an instant healing, I deserve an instant healing, and instant healing is possible, just say yes out loud.
Yes.
There's my cure. And then I always talk about definition. So if we get that divine definition, so example, letting go. If letting go means that somebody else does it at the expense of me and I don't get what I want or deserve, and it's hard and it's painful, more than likely, I'm not going to let go. If the divine definition is something that my highest and best good is going to be met and we're going to flow, I have no idea what it is, right? But that sounds a whole lot better. And if I'm in alignment with that, when it's appropriate for me to let go, I will. And I won't have all of that static that prevents that from happening. So I was just thinking, like, it would be lovely if we got the divine definitions, because we can use this in any way. Target audience, visibility strategy, pivot, and evolvement, because these are all things that we've touched on. So
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that you'll be in alignment with that divine definition, know what it feels like, that it's possible, that it's safe, how it serves you, so that you will be able to do it, and not do it and don't get me wrong, not do it like to the extent of like hiring a professional, but make it easier for you to find that professional that you want to hire to be able to work with, because you have that clarity. So if you would like those, just say yes out loud.
Yes, yes.
And then we want to change, what prevents you from having the clarity of the problem that you solve. I think sometimes that's where some confusion happens with people, is that they don't understand, what is the problem that I solve? And then also too, who is my target audience? So what prevents us from understanding and knowing who our target audience is? And let's also change, just because we're going to stay in the what's the theme, is let's change what prevents us from being seen, from being visible. So if you would like those, just say yes out loud.
Yes.
So make sure that you're saying yes out loud, and you're putting yes in the comments. And just a reminder, you get this work whether you're seeing it live or whether you're seeing it on a replay. It works. So Veronica, tell us what you have for us. So let's see. Do you want me to read this?
Yeah, if you would, that would be great.
Absolutely. She's like, I crafted this for you, Brenda. And I'm like, okay. I'm like going, this is really good. So what she is offering is a free intuition blueprint to help you grow your business. She works with entrepreneurs every day, and the most successful, most fulfilled, and most dynamic all have one thing in common. They tapped into their intuition when working their business. That's what I love to help people do as well. So some of us call it intuition or gut instinct. It doesn't really matter how you address it. We have all experienced it in some way throughout our lives. So in business, it manifests with people, deals, projects, opportunities, customers. It can happen in so many ways. So this is Veronica's free intuition blueprint, and it is in the comments below already if you would like it, just so y'all know. I think I'm going to get it. It sounds pretty good, right? So
it's pretty good.
Look at her. If she does say so herself, and I love it when somebody can say so themselves, because we have to know the value and the beauty of what we do. So Veronica, is there anything else that you want to add to this beautiful golden juiciness that we've been doing for the last half hour or so?
I just want to send everyone lots of positive energy and light. And I love that you open up this space for people so that they can receive the type of healing and growth that they need. And I'm honored to be a part of it. And just know that I'm sending the same energy out to everyone, because once we have discovered what our passion is and we are taking action, with the help of the divine, we can change everything. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it. And if anyone needs any assistance, you know how to reach me.
Absolutely, because that'll help you get, with the link that we have, that'll help get you. And of course, all you have to do is just, I've got her there in the tag as well. So you can always get a hold of Veronica. And I think that would actually be really nice as well. So let's go ahead, and you can say yes out loud to just ending this with unconditional love from the divine.
Yes.
Veronica, thank you so much for coming and being.
Thank you.
Been great. And I'm telling you guys, it's funny because she and I have just been talking. There have been so many just golden nuggets that have come along in a very short period of time. So this is definitely one that you will want to re-listen to and stop and write down and take notes. So, that's the beautiful thing about the lives, is that you can do that. So every Wednesday we do this, the Theta Power Hour, and it's always at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So next week, my featured guest will be Betsy Clark, and we're going to be doing the headline is 3 shifts to bring awareness and intention to your biz. So I feel like what a great piggyback off of this conversation. And it always happens that way. So it's always beautiful. So thank you again, Veronica, for joining me.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Thanks.